All right, welcome to part 2 of today's lecture, which is going to have to deal with the moment of inertia. So, with how the textbook introduces the moment of inertia, is it does it through kinetic energy. I feel like that's a little weird way to do that, so we're going to introduce it here, then go look at what's going on with kinetic energy. So, we are skipping around a little bit through the textbook. However, it's basically just my preference at this. And we are going to be skipping the proof in general. So in the last video, we talked about center of mass, where we saw that it's not always going to be in the direct center of our object because our masses might not be evenly distributed throughout it. So we could have a non-constant mass distribution, or we could have a constant one, but we could have that same mass in different shapes. We could have a 5 kilogram box, we could have a 5 kilogram sphere. That sphere could be hollow, it could be solid, we could have a cylinder that's hollow, or we could have a rectangle. Right? There's a lot of nice shapes out there, and there's a lot of really weird shapes out there that don't have names. We could have a 5 kilogram squiggly mess. Right? Shape can really vary. And because we have these extended bodies, shape is going to be important. So again, we are no longer using points when doing rotational motion. A point can't rotate, it's zero-dimensional. In order to rotate, we have to have at least 2 dimensions. Typically, we're going to be making those x and y. So because mass distribution, or the shape of my mass, is going to affect how an object rotates, we are going to need something to replace mass in our equations moving forward. And so, again, if we want to think about why this is important, imagine trying to roll an object down a hill. A sphere is going to be a lot easier to roll than a cardboard box, which would rather slide down the hill instead of tumble over itself, right? Shape really is going to matter with how the object is able to rotate. So we need to start thinking about how is shape in conjunction with mass going to influence how an object is able to rotate. And for that, we are going to be using what is referred to as the moment of inertia, very commonly just referred to abbreviated as I, and it has the SI units of kilograms times meters squared. So with this moment of inertia, it is going to be our replacement for mass. So we've replaced position, velocity, acceleration. Today we're replacing mass. We're going to replace kinetic energy. Well, not really replace it. We're going to find a new equation for kinetic energy. We're going to replace force. We're going to replace momentum. And with force and momentum, right, force, kinetic energy, and momentum, they all have mass in their equations. So that means that in every single one of those equations, instead of having just m, we're going to have I, which is the moment of inertia. So how do we calculate this moment of inertia? It's pretty ugly, not going to lie. It's the sum of the radius of the object squared times m. Where here the radius of the object is the radius of a very specific point. So if we go back to our triangle example, where we have the triangle made of a bunch of different points, let's pretend for the sake of, different size, different mass, every single one of these points would correspond to a different r value and a different m value. And it's going to be really chunky because we're not really saying, well, this particular mass is really spread out over this triangular area. And we can kind of spread out these masses if we looked at them in reality. And so, it's not just in that location, so technically we could take the integral, and this integral looks a little similar, but not quite similar, to the integral for center of mass. And again, we have this dm showing up, some integral with respect to mass. And so what's happening with the moment of inertia and the center of mass is we need to make sure that we replace dm with an equivalent expression involving a coordinate differential. So that's going to be dx or dy before we can integrate. So in the case of where our object is rotating around the z-axis, we really are going to have an integral with respect to x, or dx, or something that looks like this. So we're going to replace r squared with x squared plus y squared. Because again, if we think about our original definition for r, so we're saying that r squared is equal to x squared plus y squared. It's just our position vector. So that would mean that if we were doing this, we really have x squared dm plus the integral of y squared dm. So we're going to have to replace dm in both of these cases to something that's going to be in terms of that variable. But you just can't say dm is equal to dx because that's not true. So you would have to go through and think about the mass and how it's distributed in the x direction and how the mass is distributed in the y direction in order to go through and take these integrals. I'm going to be honest, as with the center of mass, we're not going to really be doing these integrals. I know a lot of you guys haven't finished Calc 1 yet. You're in the class, and so this is something you probably haven't seen yet. So for the moment of inertia, we are never going to be calculating the value using the integral. Instead, we're just going to be using the values that are given in table 12.2. This is going to be your favorite table to look at in the entirety of chapter 12. This will tell us the moment of inertia of every single object we are going to be dealing with in this class, unless it explicitly gives you an equation or a numerical value for the moment of inertia. Now, if we're being realistic, probably not going to be using the planar slabs. Not very many of those examples exist in this textbook. We are most likely going to be focusing on this right side of the table. So we have a solid cylinder or disk where it's going to rotate around the center. So its moment of inertia is given as 1/2 m being the total mass of our object times the radius of our cylinder or disk squared. If we have a hoop, so it's not solid all the way through, it's just a mass concentrated around the edge, that's just going to be mr squared. And it turns out that it's the same as just having a point, which we'll see a little bit more later. But if you had a point of mass, it's going to have an mr squared moment of inertia. If you have a solid sphere, so this is completely solid all the way through, 2/5 total mass of the system, capital R in all of these moments of inertia stands for the maximum radius value of our object. So whether that's, because here we have, an inside and an outside, it's the outside portion of our shell. So here we have a spherical shell, 2/3 mr squared. So again, this m corresponds to the total mass. R corresponds to the radius of the outside portion. And sometimes this value in front, so this 2/3, 2/5, it's a 1 for this one, and the 1/2 is sometimes referred to as lowercase c. It is some constant that is associated with a particular shape. Now the only place that you will probably see a c is in the next section or the next video for what we're going to talk about when it comes to rotational energy. It talks about the c term being compared between a couple of different objects. But in reality, for all of our objects, you can just use these equations for the moment inertia that are given. And like I said, we are probably going to be focusing more so with the ones on the right. Maybe in 130, you'll see some more of the stuff on the left, but the right-shaped ones are the ones we are going to be focusing on. Probably, if I had to guess, this one might be a little bit relevant later, just because of what we are going to be talking about in the next lecture. We might be using that one, but in general, the ones on the right are the shapes that you should focus on. But anytime you're dealing with a moment of inertia that you need to look up, 12.2 table is what you need to look at. You're not going to be deriving any moments of inertia. We're just using the values out of this table. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. Make sure to watch the next video where we discuss how does kinetic energy change when our object is rotating.